All right, so good evening and happy Ramadan for our Muslim faithfuls, those who are probably observing the Ramadan fast. And I know also that the Christians also joined today with the Lent. And our deepest prayer is that God, in His infinite mercy, will answer our prayers and cause the light of the veterinary profession that we all represent to shine even much brighter. So let me again also thank the organizers of today's meeting. It's been, so I know Dr. Gani started this, and Dr. Gani has been a long time mentor of mine. I remember when I wanted to be chairman of a particular state, chairman of Kogi State, really. Uh, the energy was low, and I wanted a situation where the state could hope for something even better than what they had before. And I had to take a trip down to Warri to meet with Dr. Gani. And when I was leaving his place, I knew exactly what to do. A couple of mistakes here and there, I think I over innovated, and that's what we're talking about today. I have risen, I've fallen in terms of using innovation. So I have a bit of expertise in it now. So I over innovated the conference, and I came out with quite a bit of some downturns. Uh, but I'm here to share the story of those downturns and how it has shaped what I do and who I am. This they took light, so you allow me off take care of my video. All right, good. So let's start, and let me thank the PRO for the association, the National Publicity Secretary, Dr. Simia. When she approached me to do this, I was a bit hesitant. Not because I I really don't have probably a few thoughts to share, but because I know how complex trying to innovate the practices in Nigeria. So I thought what was best to share, success or failures. But today I'm going to combine the two in a short 15 minutes, hoping that we all pick something from it and get inspired. The face of the person you see is somebody who has who has graced the cover page of this presentation. Is her name is Dr. Nancy. I think the first time I set my eyes on her was 3 years ago, February, 3 years ago. We just introduced an outlier award, and I thought that I think I attended two or three oath takings before we instituted the outlier award, and I sat down amidst the audience, and I saw the best person academically being awarded. But I'd had previous experiences. By the way, by that time, Farmalat was just 2 years. I'd had to have the opportunity or the honor to work with a few vets. I've worked with the best in a set. I've worked with the average in the set. And I was now forming an opinion on who and who uh, out there can make things happen. So while I realized that academic is great, I started thinking about some other traits. And I want us to pay attention because that will form the crux of exactly what it is that we're discussing today. One of the key things that I realized working with the different set of vets, the ones that are brainy, the ones that are brilliant, that it takes more than the brains to make things happen. It takes a little courage. And that's what I'm going to really be talking about. So Dr. Nancy became our first outlier in February, 3 years ago. And I want to share a particular story. She was awarded of course, the Outlier Award, and she interned with us 1 month, partly with Dr. Tunji Nasser, because our clinic wasn't really that set then. And of course, partly with us. And 2, 3 months or so down the line, I thought I'd made the biggest mistake. The numbers were not adding up. She could not put together the numbers to give us exactly what we wanted. And unfortunately for her, but fortunately now, I had to call her one day and tell her that the numbers are not adding up and I will want to let you go. So one of the most difficult things for me to do is to let a colleague go, not because they are not good, but because they are not producing the results. Uh, she she came back the next day and said, "Well, she's going nowhere. She's going nowhere." Next week, I and Dr. Nancy will be going to Liberia. She has risen from being an outlier. By next month, Farmalat will be opening in Liberia. That's going to be our first African country. And this young lady who wasn't the best in her class will be the country managing director for a new country. The landscape has changed. The landscape of the veterinary practice has changed. The landscape of the veterinary practice has changed. And it will require us exploring innovation to meet up with the demands of the new things that are coming. So I think the first question I want to ask, and they are just pretty very simple question, and I will come back to Dr. Nancy's story because that's where I'm going to climax. So for the veterinary profession, why are we where we are? Uh, so I know there will be quite a lot of answers to this. Why are we where we are? The word why is the most progressive sign in the English language because it drives progress. I think one of the key things that usually people don't do often that make them stay at the same spot is the inability of them to ask why they are where they are. So we discovered gravity, and gravity was one of the fundamental things that moved the society forward because somebody was able or have the courage to ask, why are mangoes falling? Why are they not flying? Just look at how basic that question is. Why? So this mango or this apple rather, I think apple was a story, not mango. This apple, why is this apple falling down and not going up instead? Why do people fall? I think the veterinary practice or the veterinary profession will start moving forward. Or maybe if you allow me, streamline it to your own life. People, vets, will start moving forward when they start asking the critical question, what got us to this place and why are we where we are? Uh, Fortunately for us, the young veterinary, the mentoring group is full of a lot of young people. I want to tell you, complaint the biggest waste of your talents. Let me say that again. I talk to young people, young veterinary doctors out of school. In fact, I was in a school and they were discussing with the 600 level students. Unfortunately, they gave them the mic to talk. And 8 out of 10 of the people who spoke were bitter about the profession. Let me tell you, there's no future to that. It's a waste of your imagination. Complaint, bitterness is a waste of your imagination. More importantly, is a waste of your person. I've never seen anybody who complained and made it to the top. So we have to critically ask ourselves questions, not that makes us bitter, but that makes us better. So I wrote in my next slide why we're where we are is because of who we are and what we do. We're where we are because of who we are and what we do. All right, so back to Dr. Nancy's story. Farmalab started 5 years ago, so we're pretty a very young company. And before Farmalab started, I'd had uh, I'd had series of failures, some painful, some not convenient to share, but I'd had series of failures. I think the most prominent failure was I served in Port Harcourt, and for 3 years in a row, I think I grew to a point where people noticed that we existed. Then I got distracted, went down the drain, and left the city with a debt of 17 million. So again, for God's sake, for a young person struggling with a huge debt of 17 million, I it took me 5, 6 years to recover from the loss. Now we're pretty very much comfortable. Parmalat is pretty much very comfortable. We have enough to run and deepen our operations in Nigeria. We also have enough to move into other African countries. So what changed? I'm back to Dr. Nancy. So why, after, in quote, the failure she had, why is she where she is now? And why has she all of a sudden become one of our superstars? It boils down to who she is, the courage to fail. The courage to fail. And I want to specifically talk to young people. You will fail. Naturally, you will not say amen. But if you're going to do things for the first time, if you're going to do things that has not been done before, because that's where the money is. That's where the result lies. Going out as a young person, starting a clinic, doing the same thing. I've seen old vets run clinic for 30, 35 years, gets tired. Doing things the same way, expecting to get a different result is one of the definition of, they call it insanity, but let me use the word being mad. Right. So, but at the core of innovation, what drives innovation is the courage to fail. The courage to be laughed at and not take it personal. The courage to be mocked. You know, one of the key surprising things I've noticed in this profession, that you could be old and caged. You could be old and caged. I've had the opportunity to serve with older vets, and I see sometimes, so I'm being inspired by quite a lot of old vets, but I also know that it is not age that confers courage. It is the small failure, responding to it properly, that causes somebody to take the biggest leap. So if you ask an average vet now, what do you want? They want government job. Why don't you be the government? So why don't you be the government? One day I had issue with the ministry, and I went out of the meeting and I said what I wanted the ministry to do, I will get it through myself. Who we are must be at the center of everything that our life becomes. And at the center of that if it is progress that seeks for new horizon, it has to be built on the foundation of courage. Courage to be rejected over and over again, and yet you come back on that same spot with the hope of mastering it someday. So why will somebody with a debt of 17 million still be successful? Why will Dr. Nancy, having been sacked, come back and be country managing director in another country? It's just the sheer courage to want to attempt things over and over again until it is perfected. There's a bright future ahead of the veterinary profession. There's a bright future. There's a bright future ahead of the veterinary profession, and it will only be engaged with young vets with a heavy dose of courage. Let me stop here and then probably entertain a few questions. So thank you. And I wish on you courage to fail and not take it personal. Courage to go back to the same thing you fail at until you perfect it. If you can do that, you will be ahead of a lot of people, ahead of just by having the courage to fail, come back again until it is perfected. You will be at a level that 90% of people will not be at. I'm not saying very stupid failures, but again, there's no failure that is stupid if you learn from it. Somebody was asking, how do you learn to make good decisions? The person said through bad decision. Bad decision made repeatedly but learned from. We give you a level of experience that 90% of people will not have. It is time for us. And you see, Africa, I was in a particular African country, and one of the leaders of that country looked at me and said, we are looking up to Nigerians, but Nigeria had not yet taken its place. The veterinary profession, we should not be competing with human medicine. We should not be behind the stage. We should not be the one fighting for recognition. How many are we? We are less than 10,000. The active vets are less than 6,000. In a population of 200 million, 6,000 people should be Spartans. They are 300, but they go into any war and they win. We must stick together as a profession. We must fight together as a profession. But more importantly, young people mustn't be caged by complaints. We must be unleashed by our ability to execute our God-given heart, which demands courage most of the time. So as I said, there's a lot ahead of the veterinary profession, and I know it can only get better with people like Dr. Nancy, with heavy dose of courage, who are not afraid to fail, but are able to come back to what they fail at and do it again, not necessarily minding whether there's a shame attached to repeating a class, but are bothered by, can I master this stage? Can I be my best? Thank you, everyone. So if you want to take questions, I think I'm open to those questions, and we could go around this together.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so very much, Dr. Femi Kayode, for that very powerful message. Very was quite concise and, of course, fully loaded. I really appreciate it. We appreciate it on behalf of the Vet Practice Mentoring platform. We say thank you very, very much. And congratulations to Dr. Nancy. Congratulations to Farmalat on this wonderful expansion. We are always proud. You know, I kept pushing, I kept pressing that we needed you to come on board to share with us some personal experiences, because you know the truth is what we actually need on this platform is not theory. We don't need loads of notebook stuff. What we need are practical experiences, people things that would resonate. When we have real life experiences, we have people come to share exactly what they've gone through, what they are going through, and how they failed and were able to rise again, and overcome challenges that initially seemed insurmountable. So these are the things that we are talking about. I don't know. I know that we didn't actually talk well about this, so I don't know if it would be overreaching for me to see on this call. I'm hoping she's the one. If she could maybe just a sentence or two, just a few lines, because this story that you shared now, for me, it's really powerful. Most of our young vets these days, I don't know, there's so much expectation and they do not want to put in the effort. They think that so. Of course, we're going to be taking questions, but I would appreciate if you could have Dr. Nancy maybe just 2 minutes, just tell us something that could encourage someone about what really made you to say no, I'm not leaving. You think you can make me go, but there's something that I think I have in me that I need you to help me harness, to help bring out of me. And of course there's something I know that I can also infuse into Farmalat to also make you actualize your dreams and accomplish your dreams faster. Thank you and over. I don't know. So is it over to Dr. Nancy now or Dr. Femi? Are you going to probably give her permission to do that? Thank you.
She's a big woman now, so she doesn't need permission. So I actually sent her the link like a minute to the meeting. So, but again, I'm happy she's joined Dr. Nancy. I didn't even tell her I was going to share her story. Dr. Nancy. All right, good.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, good evening, sir. Good evening, Dr. Simeon. And good evening. It's good to be here. As Dr. Kayode said, I joined just he sent me the link a minute to this call. So it's not like I'm prepared to talk, but basically from the story he shared, I would say for me, I think I also saw Dr. Tumsia on the call, right? From the story he shared, for me, it was just sheer determination, and I believed in myself too much. Like I just believed there was something good in me, and I was not believing that I could not handle whatever it was, no matter how difficult it seemed. I just believed there was something good. That was one. And then, but the main thing was actually believing in someone else's vision. Like I had listened to the vision of the brand, and I had listened to almost all the details of what was going on at the brand as at when I joined. And it sat well with me. So asking me to now move out while I came into the brand because I am different, because the word outlier literally means there is something different about you. So if I walk into the brand as an outlier and it's supposed to believe that there's something different, and then you're saying there is nothing different about me, then it simply means there was a mistake in probably making a decision on choosing me as the outlier. So that's changed something in me, and I had to tell myself, no, it's not happening. And I just took it up as a challenge. I told myself, okay, fine. He has said you should go, but then is that really what you wanted? And I said no. So what would you rather be? Would you rather be somebody normal or be an outlier for real? And I chose to be an outlier. So I just decided to go back to him and I told him I'm not going. And when he asked, okay, when I even went back, he had told me the roles available were not roles that a veterinarian should actually have. And I took up the role of being a front desk officer with Farmalot. I told him I would rather be the front desk officer and learn through the process. So I had an open mind. It was really the openness for me. It was the openness to learn, the willingness to learn, and the fact that I knew where I was headed and what he was saying as at then really sat well with me. So I bought into the vision and I carried it with me like it was mine. And that is what it is till now. I think buying into the vision is what it is for me. And then just as I said, the openness, really. You have to have an open mind to learning. And with that, there will be, if you need to evolve part time, just evolve. You cannot be static and expect changes to happen. So if you need to evolve, let it happen. A lot of us are just very static with our mindsets, and I think that is what keeps us where we are. So if part time things are happening and then it needs you to change, just allow the change happen and then see what the results can be. And the other part of it would be probably understanding that results and a result oriented mind, it's powerful. Successful people would not want you to just explain your efforts. Efforts are not explained. Efforts are measured. And once they are being measured, it's measured with numbers. It's not English language. They measure it with numbers. And once the numbers are not adding up, somebody who knows where he or she is going to would definitely not see the efforts because the numbers are not there. It's the numbers, the results that determines the efforts. So at that point, I just had to understand that, okay, he said the results are not showing. That's fine. So what is it that you have done that would actually make these results show? And then after my reflection, I just told myself the truth and I said, okay, fine, this is it. So, okay, you have failed. Would you want to fail again? No. And I had to change. So I had to change fundamentally what my beliefs were that, oh, as a veterinarian, I should not be doing this. I had to evolve. I had to change to become who I needed to be, to pull, will I say the weight I needed to pull for the company to move forward or to actually align with where the company was going to or where the brand was going to. So that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Nancy. I think we can actually safely say that we've had a 3-in-1 lecture tonight. Thank you very much. So I think Dr. Maxwell has a question. If he's still on the call, you could unmute and ask your question, please.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, you are
Loud and
audible.
clear.
Good evening. I want to start by first appreciating Dr. Kayode Femi. Sir, you are a great mentor. I've been following you for some time now, for like, let me say, 2 years now. And you really, really inspire me. You really, really inspire me. Well done, sir. And I want to appreciate Dr. Simiat Adeoguntu for bringing you here. This is the only opportunity I have to ask this question because most of the time I join virtually, so I might not be able to ask the question except I type. But this is a perfect opportunity to ask. So, in being a member of the VCM board, your impact was felt by the whole veterinary body. In fact, there was a complete change in the way things were done. How were you able to convince the members of the board that let's try this method? How were you able to bring that innovation, convincing them that, okay, let's do it this way? That if we do it this way, we'll be able to get this kind of result and it will be better, it will be more convincing. How were you able to, convince them to do that? Because that's a major change because most veterinarians, they are not really open to change. They look at it as maybe you are trying to waste your time. Over the years, we've tried, it didn't work. So why should this one work? So that's usually the challenge. How were you able to convince them, sir?
Okay, well, so I thank you, Maxwell. And then, of course, it's always a privilege, and I love to interact. And usually when I'm talking to somebody who has been trying to reach me, I start with an apology. I get a few complaints here and there that don't respond. So if you had ever tried to reach me and I didn't respond, so apology in advance. Then more importantly, so I really don't want to claim the credit of the success of the Veterinary Council the last 5 years. I always think that one person alone cannot cause the needed change. When you're making a soup, there are different ingredients to it. That you see the oil on top does not mean everything under is oil. So the Veterinary Council success was I will always credit the president, the immediate past president of the Veterinary Council. Everything rises and falls on leadership. I am because she was, right? So she gave the right kind of platform for young people to experiment. Don't forget, I'd had a series of failures before then that she's quite aware of. To gamble on me was unusual. And so I like to always acknowledge what she had done. But more importantly, and specifically to your question, currently, Farmalat, we're reviewing a book, 360-Degree Leader by John C. Maxwell. So we review a book and we're on that book for 6 months. We are 70 direct full-time associate. We call ourselves associate in Farmalat. And I saw this mindset that, oh, some people are leaders, some people are just starting. And I was asking myself, so how do you make people who are even under influence people from every side of the equation? So what 360-degree leaders taught us is that you can lead upward, you can lead across, and you can lead below. So what does it mean to lead upward? There are people ahead of you that you can influence, because leadership is basically influence. There are people, your peers, that you can inspire. There are people that are, and I don't really like to use the word below, but for the purpose of 360-degree leader, that are below, that you will need to be a model to. Right. So the responsibility of a good leader, or a good leader will be able to lead upward, be able to lead sideways, and will be able to lead below. So what I do most often, and guess what? What will help you as a leader in a politically charged or in a multi-stakeholders atmosphere is not to need praise for a job done. So I'm lucky, really lucky, that a lot of people acknowledge me. For 5 years, I never projected myself. Sometimes in Africa, you have leadership that are, well, allow me use the word, but not a good word, still battling with their self-esteem. They need that respect. You could not, in Africa, you cannot be a threat to leadership. If there's anyone who can influence, there was a time there was a little bit of clash between elders in a particular forum, and I made a statement and the clash stopped. But what people did not realize is that I played down on whether people think I'm wise or not. It's your result that will let people know whether you're wise or not. And people see results, right? I think if young vets stop being arrogant, elders will listen to them. Well, in Africa now, you cannot enter a conversation with an elder with arrogance. Even if you are right, you will not be listened to. So first of all, and straight to your question, be convinced of even the solution. So you have to do your background work. The continuing education that all turned out to be good. I remember the council meeting that approved that continuing education. 70% of the room. By the way, before then, the continuing education was always in the negative. The year before the year we took over, it was 9 million in the negative. The next year before we started was 11 million in the negative. For the first time, the continuing education we held turned out to be profit. I was reading the last, and I'm still with the council file here on my table. I was reading the last council meeting that we held on Saturday also, and continuing education recorded a profit of 16 million. But the meeting that approved continuing education to be virtual had 70% opposition. In fact, they allowed us, they said at the end of the day, we said, allow us fail for the first time. I was convinced that COVID had changed things. I'd done my homework. So first, do your homework. Because if you succeed, you will earn the credibility for more success. Don't come in and say you can change the world and then they give you a small step and then you cannot even change your own classmates. Aha. So do your own research and pay the price of hard work to know what it is that you're doing so that when the opportunity shows up and you use it, when the first continuing education succeeded, the second one was easier. The third one was easier. But let your entry point be rooted in firm knowledge and a heavy dose of humility because our profession is still regimented. I see young people talk these days, and I've been there. I've been there. The first 2, 3 years, I was slightly arrogant to the chief. That's one of the biggest things I regretted, to be open and to be arrogant to a senior colleague. So one day I sat down and asked myself, so this arrogance now, you are only, in fact, the senior colleague called other people and said they have to shoot me down. In fact, the senior colleague was now monitoring that if people are not attacking me enough, the person will go back and ensure that their name is written where he will remind them that he didn't attack them. So one day I sat down, I said, this enmity that I'm causing because I think I know too much and I'm talking too much, where will it lead me? See, we achieved more at the end of the day because I didn't even need the recognition. I did my homework. Nobody could doubt whether I did. The election went successful. But ask people around me the sleepless night that went into the background of that election. Even up until the dying moment when the result was happening, my eyes were red. Do your homework. Don't enter a conversation with stakeholders that are higher than you with arrogance. And then once you achieve a little measure of result, trust me, once they don't feel threatened, they will give you more and more room to achieve more. And at the end of the day, it's you that wins. Nobody loses when he stoops. They say stoop to conquer, right? Nobody loses. Young people, young vets needs to stop this arrogant. I saw somebody forwarded a message. Someone was talking about the veterinary council president like they are mates. All the best if you think that will work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Femi, for that very elaborate answer. I'm sure that Dr. Maxwell is more than satisfied with your response because I have also taken a lot of things away from that. So I think to wrap up, because I'm sure we were not even supposed to stay for this long, I think we should just take Dr. Augustine Tunga. His hands are up. Very briefly, then we can wrap up for the evening. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Tunga.
Okay, good evening, ma. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Kayode, for that wonderful session. I want to ask, like, let's say, how can you navigate failure in an environment where people don't support you? Thank you.
All right, so it's so where do we start from? First of all, and I apologize if I will sound very religious, right? God is your biggest support. The second biggest support is yourself. The environment at first might be hostile, but somebody made you. That person who made you won't give up on you that easily. I left Kogi 2019 with a lot of bad reputation. And I told my wife it is time to leave the profession and do something else. Really, I thought I could succeed anywhere else without being part of the profession. In fact, I told myself until somebody who just came in, they were already having committees to get me out. Somebody came in and stood in without me asking. So I'd always been a good student in school. In my 500 level, for the first time, I had a D in a course, and the result was pasted. So the news went round. John Femi is having 1 year extra. I'd never failed a course. I was on 4 point something. I had D because I was distracted. So when I saw the D, I knew it was 1 year. I didn't say a word to anybody. I just went back to the hostel. The next morning, I came back. They've told the results. When the result was going to be pasted in the afternoon, I had C in the. What happened? Some people just somewhere, because I was curious to know what happened. I don't know if you believe in God. I do. So when I've done all I could, right, and nobody is supporting, I always remember there's a maker who won't let you fall. Next thing is yourself. Don't give up on yourself, even if others do. So if others are saying you have failed and you're also telling yourself you have failed, is that not double jeopardy? So I spend a lot of time more with myself, trying to convince myself that there's more to me. I love what Dr. Nancy said. She was announced as an outlier, and you can see me, I started becoming a stumbling block. I sacked her. And she told herself there's more to herself. And of course, luckily, look at where she is today. So there's an invisible hand of the maker that won't give up on you. I'm convinced of that. So even at your lowest moment, then always know that you are your best believer. If others give up on you, don't give up on yourself. One day you will prove them wrong. But again, you don't even need to prove anybody wrong. At this point, I don't go out to prove a point. I go out to just be myself, but be my best self, right? So I don't go out to say, "Oh no, you failed me before. I'm going to take." You don't need that energy. Spend that energy in projecting what God has placed in you. So don't give up on yourself. If those two things matters to you, people will eventually rally around and support you. I got over 500 responses, people thanking, goodwill. That wasn't the case. I got more hatred after COVID 2019. 5 years after, I got more accolade. People will come back to say thank you if you don't give up on yourself. No matter how hostile the environment is, God won't leave you at that position where there's nothing in you or around you for you to rise with. You will always rise if you don't give up. I think I want to stop there.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Kennedy. And thank you also, Dr. Nancy. I don't think you could have shared as honestly and as deeply as you did if I had preempted you that you were going to share your experience with us on this platform today. And I think you did that beautifully. And I also want to especially thank you. And I hope that people on this call and those that are going to get the recording will also take special notes from some of the key points that she dropped. Like for crying out loud, Yvette was about to be sacked, and then she goes back and takes a role as a front desk officer. I mean, these are some of the things that a vet now they will say, "Come and take a job," or you say, "What kind of work?" No, 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 no. I'm a vet. I'm a DR. I can't. Why would I stop solo? Why would I? But if you know where you're going, you will not mind how you are going to get there. if you feel that, okay, you need to start from anywhere, no matter how low and all that, the focus is the goal. As long as you keep your eyes on the prize, you'll definitely get there. So thank you very much to everyone for joining us. Thanks for making it a date. Thank you very much, Dr. Kayode, for your time and for sharing with us today. We really appreciate you. So we will be sharing the recordings as soon as we get them. And I hope that when we call you again, you always try to make time for us.
My pleasure, as always. Thank you,
And
Dr.
right.
Femi.